right. Sending data. It always takes YouTube Live a little longer to connect than with Twitch. I never know what that's about. Okay, there we go. Well, good evening, everybody. For those that don't know me, my name's Philosopher Ray, and I am one of the last few real-life philosophers still living in the wild. So, I just edited up some of the footage from last night's live stream, specifically the part towards, in the first part of the stream where I was reading off a pre-written script answering the question of what is philosophy. And I just used CapCut to basically just cut out all the many bad takes and clearing of my throat and all that crap going on, and got a nice, neat, presentation out of it. I decided to go against spending more time trying to throw in flashy graphics. I figured it made more sense to just have a neat presentation, kind of like a lecture on what is philosophy. And I went ahead and uploaded it to YouTube. It's on YouTube now. I also did upload it to TikTok. I created a TikTok account today as well. But I guess because from what I can tell, and according to ChatGPT, because I'm new to TikTok, it's for some reason TikTok wants to review my content before publishing it to everyone. So it's like it's posted, but it can only be viewed by me, and it's locked in allowing it to be viewed by everyone unless and until it's been reviewed. And it says it can take up to 12 hours. I don't know if that's how long it'll actually take. Maybe by the morning, everything will be fine, but I'll see what's going on there. But the video is on YouTube. I'm happy to say. So I got my kind of first more, edited up, kind of a little more properly presented YouTube video out of last night's stream. I do plan to cut up or make a highlight reel supercut of the rest of last night's stream. For those who haven't seen, I was reacting to a video by The Vile Eye on whether or not light yagami is analyzing evil light yagami. I rather enjoy doing the reaction. I just talked a lot during it, and there's a bunch of stuff to cut out and really just make a highlight reel out of it. That's kind of my next goal. I was thinking about editing that up tonight, but I thought I do want to kind of try to maintain a habit of getting a stream out. And what I thought I could do while I sit on the rest of the content I want to edit, supercut up out of last night's React, I just thought, why not sit down and do another React stream? I don't think it'll be quite as long as last night's. There's really only a few things I wanted to react to. But basically, for those who don't know, there's a really interesting web series online called the Amazing Digital Circus. And it's been running for the past couple of years now. It's just one season. It's just very, very high production quality. And they, have, it just takes them a long time to do each episode, but they just finally finished their last episode, and it's been kind of a big deal. For now, what I want to do because of that is I wanted to react to a few things from the last episode of Amazing Digital Circus, as well as a couple other scenes. The show is a very interesting premise. We'll talk about it more in a minute, but it has to do with, I think, definitely multiple philosophical concepts, and including philosophical concepts that even kind of intersect with relevant topical questions like AI. So I thought, why not just get some more React content streamed tonight, and then I can just have more kind of recorded, stream playback footage to just go back and edit up as I start. I think I mentioned my stream last time. I'm going to be focusing on just trying to really crank out CapCut edits, more, finer, polished edits of like highlights of these streams as raw footage, and trying to start putting those out on YouTube and TikTok for the benefit of, just trying to get some kind of an audience here. Right now I'm still speaking into the void, save for like, well, I won't say their name, but I know there's like one person watching this. But anyway, let me go ahead and get set up here. I just got to do this little setup to get to get into my React kind of format here. Just kind of have to remember how to do it in YouTube Studio. I think I remember I just go to change background, and then I go to color picker, and then I choose the transparent in capture option, and then I go back to OBS, and you see now the screen's blacked out, and that lets me put on a window capture I've already set up. There we go. I just have to move this spout capture on top of it. There we go. And then now it's just a matter of moving myself, my little bro here, over here. Just kind of want to get it right. Okay. All right. See, I'm getting a little better at this. I can set things up like that. All right. So as you can see, we're here on, this is Glitch. So just a little background on the Amazing Digital Circus. It's actually kind of really interesting. So Glitch is an independent, media channel. 22.8 million subscribers, are doing very well on YouTube, and this is by far their best series ever. And if we go to it, it's kind of crazy. If we go to the do they have a playlist for it? Yeah. No, those are trailers. Can you all see this all right? I'm actually curious. Yeah. I mean, my avatar is in the way, but okay. So basically, is my avatar? Yeah. Okay. Everything's looking all right. No BS. So I'm still new at this. Still have to double check things. But basically, I don't know where oh, here it is. I was looking right at it.
I just created simple product videos for all.
Stupid. I don't know if that's too loud or what the deal is. Okay.
These different products.
Basically, what is that? All right. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. If you go to videos, so okay, so this is our last episode. This is like the kind of series finale. 67 million views. 67 million views. Here's episode 8 from 3 months ago. 118 million views. Episode 7, 89 million views. They're just killing it, and it's one thing that I find really impressive about the Amazing Digital Circus is if we go to the episode, if we go to settings, and not even just subtitles, but if we go to where is it? I forget how to change it. Audio track. Right, English is original, right? But look at all of this. Arabic, Chinese, Dutch, French, German, Hindi, Hungarian, Indonesian, Japanese, Korean, Polish, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish, Thai, Turkish, Ukrainian, Urdu, and Vietnamese. Those are all the languages that they have a dub for. So again, meaning like those are all the languages for which they hire a whole cast of voice actors native to that language and present the whole episode in that language. It's actually a very smart business move because it just means their audience is like the whole world. They have full dub in all these different languages around the world. It's very impressive. I mean, obviously, it's a huge amount they pour into this series, but it's been very well received. And so just for a little background about this series, basically, the Amazing Digital Circus takes place. It was loosely inspired by a science fiction novel or novella, but I Have No Mouth, But I Must Scream, where people are trapped by an AI which is vengeful and becomes hateful towards human beings and just commits its whole existence to torturing these people that it basically has as its prisoners. Out of a hatred towards human beings. So it's loosely inspired by that. So the whole plot of the show is that there are these people, various human beings over time, who put on a VR headset in the real world, and get their minds uploaded to this digital world where they have these digital bodies. And everything's very weird and cartoony. And this digital world is run by a sentient AI named Kane. And Kane feels his existence as he's supposed to kind of take care of these humans trapped in his program, and in a way where like he's supposed to entertain them. So he comes up and the AI has full design over the code, so it's like a god of this world, and it can create anything. So there's always like creating these adventures for them, and things for them to do. It's it's like really interesting, but everybody there is miserable. They just want to go home, and the AI just can't comprehend that. Like, why would anybody want to leave me? And so he's basically keeping them there and kind of torturing them. But it's interesting. He goes through his own little character arc. Like, he doesn't really see it that way. He thinks he's like this benevolent, almost paternal figure taking care of them. And so the story is very interesting. I can't, obviously can't go through the whole story for you now. But there's one thing that was revealed in this last episode that I think is really, really, really interesting. So in the second to last episode, episode 8, it turns out one of the characters is who's been trapped with them. He seems kind of crazy and senile and old, but it turns out that actually he's kind of repressing some memories, and he's actually one of the original programmers. And so they get him to go try to hack into Kane's code, and then he accidentally deletes Kane's code and seemingly kills the AI. And we're now going to pick up at this in this last episode right there. And I will confess, similar to my previous react, I have seen this last episode already. But why I wanted to react to it is because there's some really interesting stuff that gets revealed in this last episode that has some really interesting philosophical implications. There's also some clips from earlier episodes we might go over. So we're not going to sit here and watch the whole last episode. We're not going to sit here and watch the whole series. That's crazy. There's just some certain clips that I thought had some philosophical relevance. I thought it might be worth doing a little react stream to. All right, so let's pick up. So remember, the last episode we're picking up right after this computer programmer so again, these are supposed to be human beings who got their minds uploaded to and trapped within this virtual world run by this AI who's kind of who thinks he's a benevolent paternal figure taking care of them, but really is sort of like this overlord that's been torturing them. And what's happening, and we're picking up after this point where one of the trapped humans was revealed to be one of the former programmers, and he's just accidentally deleted Kane's code. He just accidentally, quote unquote, killed the AI. And we're picking up right at that point, and we're going to immediately get into some very interesting reveals. All right, so let's go. Oh god, these stupid ads. On my personal YouTube channel, I actually I'll confess, I just pay I think you could just, what is it, like $5 a month, $6 a month. You can pay Google and they'll remove the ads for you. For the longest time back in the day, I would just have an ad blocker installed and it would automatically take care of them. But Google finally got smart enough and sophisticated enough to install an ad blocker. I'm sorry, not an ad blocker, a reverse ad blocker, like sort of like an ad blocker for ad blockers, where it'll detect and then won't allow you to view their videos or use YouTube as long as you're using an ad blocker. So they finally kind of got rid of that, and that's to force you to do things like pay $5 a month to have the ads removed. On my personal YouTube account, I'll confess I've sucked it up and paid the $5 so I don't have to deal with these ads normally. So every time I'm doing these reacts on my, my I don't know if you call it business account, but my VTuber YouTube account, I keep forgetting I have to deal with these ads. Anyway, actually now's a good time to double check. Can you hear this okay? Sounds alright to me. Yeah. So this is the intro. fun little theme song there. So these are the trapped humans. So just to explain, so those are the trapped humans, and their minds are trapped in this virtual reality, and they're given these silly, kind of ridiculous bodies that are cartoonish. It's all deliberately cartoonish in nature, and as you can see by this intro, there's a very bright and cartoony vibe about the whole thing, and that's kind of part of the. I think it's part of the shtick aesthetically. Is this ironic, bright and cartoony feel to what is like actually very depressing and kind of a very difficult existence to deal with, really very much an existential crisis kind of would wash over anybody stuck in this situation. I want to see, because I've been doing these reactions. You can see the top here. I'm curious if I scroll, yeah, no, that doesn't get rid of it. I'm wondering, I'm curious how you can get, I guess I would have to hide I'd have to hide it. Hide the taskbar. Browser task manager. There's a way to do it. There's a way to do it. I keep forgetting to figure some of these things out before I start the stream. I don't know. Yeah, no, it's not worth it. We won't mess with it right now. This should be okay for right now. But because you all can you can see what's going on in the video. Right? I think it's the very bottom gets cut off. Let me see something. If I did that, does that help at all? No, that makes it worse. Let me fix it. All right. Actually, it's kind of better though. What if I went like this? Default view. And that helps a little bit. Now you can see the side. Yeah, we're gonna do that. That's what I was doing last night. I promise I'm gonna figure this out a little better in the future. For now, we're just doing some clips, so we're gonna stick to this. But anyway, we've got this kind of, this bright and cartoony aesthetic about this very otherwise miserable kind of existence. Those people you were seeing come up on the screen, those are the trapped humans, right? Yeah, see, now you're getting that dark vibe about it. Okay, so here they are.
Are you sure? How did that even happen?
She's saying, are you sure? How did that even happen? Because this guy, Kinger, so the guy with the bucket on his head is the one who used to be a programmer for the AI program in this virtual world before he got trapped in it. And he's just at the very end of the last episode, he just revealed, oops, I accidentally just killed Kane being the AI overlord. And so that's what she's asking him about. How did that even happen? What's going on? What do we do now? Their whole existence they've been lorded over by this AI program, and now apparently it's been destroyed.
There's no undo or anything?
He was messing with the console as I was working. I don't know what happened, but before I could try to get him back, the floor opened up and...
That's convenient.
Jax.
What? Are we all just supposed to forgive this? This guy messed up in the worst possible way he could. Now, we have nothing.
Jax.
Okay, so the reason why he's freaking out, Jax is the rabbit guy, and the reason why he's freaking out like that is because if Kane is the AI running the whole place, right, and everybody ultimately wants to be free and get out of here, the idea was that maybe there was a way they could get Kane to release them. Kane's the one who runs this whole virtual reality. He's like the god of this virtual world. So, he's like the god of this virtual world. So, with him just dead now they're just kind of stuck in this virtual reality, and it's questionable that there's any way out whatsoever, now that this has happened. And so that's why everybody's kind of freaking out, like, what the hell are we going to do now? you know, the AI running this whole virtual world we're trapped in is gone or dead now, which brings up an interesting question of like, can an AI die? We're going to get to some of those questions, but that's what's essentially going on here.
Please, just calm down. We're
Anything else you want to tell us?
Jax!
Oh, he's pissed.
He gets to mess up like this and everyone takes his side?
Brain scans.
Okay, that was a really important reveal. Remember, this is the last episode. This entire time, we're told that they are, you know, these are human beings who put on virtual reality headsets and then got, therefore, their brains, like, or their minds uploaded to this virtual reality and are now trapped here, right? That's what has been the story this entire series. Yeah, we're getting a huge bombshell dropped right now. And it starts with the two words he just said. You want to hear what they were again?
Brain scans.
Brain scans. They're not going to explain it super well what that means. It's kind of more, they leave it up to implication. But let's hear what he says.
Scratch was trying to make a brain scanner. I didn't think it actually worked. We didn't know how to work with the files, and they were impossibly small, given what they were supposed to be. I saw a folder full of them when I was in Kane's code. So, I guess Kane found a way to get them working.
That means...
I know what it means.
Congratulations, Zubul! Guess you still get to leave your mark in the world. Oh, isn't that...
Let's talk about why they just reacted like that.
Found a way to get them working. So, I guess Kane found a way to get them working.
Kane found a way to get that. So did you hear his explanation?
I saw a folder full of them when I was in
Saw a
Kane's
folder
code.
full of brain scans when I was in Kane's code.
I guess Kane found a way to get them working.
Kane, the AI, found a way to get the brain
means...
scans working. That means...
I know what it means.
I know what it means. Okay, so what was basically just revealed right then, this is the bombshell that's being dropped at the beginning of the last episode. We are under the assumption, we're thinking this whole time, that these are the original people who have been non-consensually uploaded to this virtual reality and trapped there in these virtual cartoony bodies. But what that Kinger is the name of the guy with the bucket on his head. What Kinger just revealed is that actually one piece of when he was still working for the software company that designed all this stuff, he said one thing we were working on were brain scans, brain scan files. So essentially a way to scan your whole brain and then save that data in a massive complicated file. Now he said we were never able to get it work. We were never able to get it to work. He said, but when I was going through the files, you know, Kane's files, the AI's files, just now, when he basically just accidentally deleted them or killed them, what he was saying is, I found a folder with all of those brain scans in them, and they were functioning. So whereas we weren't able to ever get those brain scans to work, I guess Kane, the AI, figured out a way to get them to work. Now, what does that mean? And why is everybody like suddenly devastated and saying, but that means, and he's like, I know what that means. Why does everybody look so devastated to hear that? Because what that means is, rather than this being the original people whose minds were somehow uploaded and transported out of their bodies and into this virtual world, the assumption all this time is that their minds are floating around this virtual world, operating through these digital avatars, these cartoony avatars, and their bodies are just like out there, like in a pod somewhere, like in the Matrix. It's essentially the assumption was that these people are like people trapped in the Matrix. But actually, what this really means, and this is the huge bombshell that's just been revealed, is that in fact, what really happened is all the original people who these people are based on, they had their brains scanned, copied, and then saved. Meaning the entities that are all in this world, these quote unquote people talking to each other are all really just digital copies of other people's brains, meaning they have no physical bodies. They're not real, quote unquote. They don't exist in the physical world. They're not the same people that their minds were based on. It's not that the original people had their minds like sucked out of their bodies and placed into this digital world. It's that the original people just had their minds copied, and those copies were then given these avatars and brought to life. These are not actually people from the real physical world. They're digital copies. They're purely digital creations that are just simply based on those people, and because they're based on those people, they have all the memories, copies of all the memories of those people. So up until now, they thought they were those original people, but there's no actual continuity of identity. They're completely new, separate entities who just came into being when their brain scan files were created and then started running with the bodies they were given, the digital bodies they were given here. Crazily enough, that's a huge bombshell, and I hope I explained it all right. I hope it makes sense the way I explained it. They're not people plugged into the matrix. They're just copies of people. They're copies of real people who have only ever existed in this virtual world, but with all the memories of the people they were copied from, thus causing them to, up until this point, mistakenly believe that they were those original people who got trapped in this world. And that's why everybody looks so grave and sullen to learn that information, because what that means is there is no leaving this world for them now. It's their permanent fate. Why? Because they have no physical bodies to return to. They have no physical body through which to exist in the external world. This is the only existence they have as digital copies of other people's brains running in this program. There's no way out of it. This is actually the totality of their existence. They're condemned to it and can never leave because they've never existed anywhere outside of it, even if they mistakenly thought they had, due to their false memories.
Congratulations, Zubul! Guess you still get to leave your mark in the world. Oh, isn't that fun?
Jax.
I guess you still get to hang out with Mommy after all, right, Rags?
Shut up, Jax!
Guess I'm still...
I know. I think I've always known. It just, for some reason, it still hurts so much to hear it.
I know it hurts, but we
See,
still
they're
have each
devastated
other.
to hear this.
We're all in this together.
You see why they're devastated to hear this, right? That means, because they have all the memories of the people whose brains they were scanned from. They believe themselves to be those people who just ended up trapped here, and therefore had it in their mind, this idea that I can escape from here and go back to my body and my life outside of here. But now they're learning they were never even those people to begin with, which is it's a devastating implication. And in fact, it raises some multiple interesting philosophical questions that I thought we could go over for a little bit. So, and really that gets to the issue of what is a person, right, with a fixed identity. I'm Ray, and I'm Ray in this moment, and I'm Ray, and I was Ray yesterday, and I'll be Ray tomorrow. My physical body is always changing, but I am still the same fixed entity named Ray. So, what is it that makes me a constant? Or am I just nothing but my physical? Because it seems like if I were just my physical body, then I couldn't possibly, you get a one in the many problem. A one in the many problem means, when you have it's a something that's made up of a bunch of different parts and things, and it's in a constant state of change. How does that something remain a one thing? right? How is the computer mouse on my desk right here one thing called a computer mouse altogether, rather than just a bunch of different molecules and atoms that are all constantly changing around? Well, as applied to a human being, the one and the many problem seems to get that seems to arise from a materialistic perspective. A materialistic perspective would be the assumption that all we are our physical bodies and nothing more. And that would also mean, by extension, all our minds are our physical brains and nothing more. If that's the case, though, then we seem to get a really serious one in the many problem, where our bodies are constantly changing. Our cells are constantly dying and replacing themselves. There is very little, if any, tissue in my body today that is the same tissue I had in my body, 10 years ago. Almost, if not all, almost virtually all of my body's cells and tissues have died off and been replaced over the past 10 years. Yet I am still Ray today, just as I was Ray 10 years ago. But how can we say that if all I am is my body? Because my body's constantly changing. So that's a one in the many problem that comes from materialism. So this is why traditionally many people kind of tend, there's a common what's called a dualist intuition. So dualism would be the belief that who we are as people is not just one thing, but it's two things bound together. So most commonly this would be thought of as like our bodies and then our souls. And it's to treat our soul as an entirely separate substance or a separate thing from our bodies. Plato thought in this way. However, contemporarily, this is most commonly associated with Cartesianism. Descartes had a very radically dualist view, where Descartes said the only thing that we are as individuals is our immaterial mind and soul. That we have this totally abstract mind and soul that just kind of pilots around our physical bodies, almost as if our bodies are like these meat puppets, right? These like organic robots that our minds are these separate things piloting. And so I think this is why when a lot of people watch something like the Amazing Digital Circus, and this idea of human beings who put on a VR headset and have their mind uploaded to the virtual world, a lot of people just assume that to mean, oh, their bodies are like these lifeless husks, like comatose, like coma patients sitting in like matrix chambers somewhere while their mind has been transported somewhere else. It's a very dualist assumption that goes into it, because you're thinking of the mind and the soul as something separate from the body entirely, and therefore can be completely removed from the body and relocated to a digital world where it's then instantiated into a digital form. There's a very dualist assumption that goes there, and that's what I kind of find very interesting about this show, is the way it sort of prompted that dualist intuition in people. However, I would myself tend to be more of a hylomorphic. I would hold to more of a hylomorphic view of mind-body relation and soul-body relation. Hylomorphism is a fancy term. It originates with Aristotle, so this is essentially a form of Aristotle's view. Hule, so if we take the Greek words hule and morphe, hule means matter. Well, it actually literally means wood, but it very commonly can be taken to mean more like raw stuff or matter, raw material. Hule means matter, and morphe means literally shape, though in this context it can mean form. Right? So hylomorphism means matter formism. So it's the view that one substance is actually always comprised of, well, it exists at the intersection of two things. Matter, which is the raw potential stuff that something is made out of, it's its potential being, and form, which is the actuality of what something is made into. So to try to make it simple, Aristotle himself, in either physics or metaphysics, as sometimes get those two mixed up, he uses a really helpful example of a seal and wax. So you know how people used to seal envelopes back in the day, where you pour wax on the envelope, and then you take a seal and you press the seal into the wax. The wax is like the matter, and the seal is like the form, right? The wax is just this raw, undefined goop, and then the seal is the actuality, the shape that's pressed into the goop. If you imagine like clay, this might be an even better example. If you just had a raw hunk of clay, you just had raw, like, or just raw stuff, this undefined, amorphous hunk of raw stuff that is clay. And then form would be the shape of the thing that you then shape the clay into. So if you had a vase, or like with pottery, if you had like a vase, the raw clay the vase is made out of would be the matter, and and its potential being its material. The shape of the vase, the shape that that clay is shaped into that makes it a vase, that would be the form, its actuality. So as we apply this to the human person, as this would be distinct, I'm sorry, I know this pause has gone on very long, but this is important stuff. This is like the philosophical meat. This is the point of my channel. Basically, as we apply this hylomorphism to a person, it's to say, like any other substance, a person, a human, or any living thing really, exists also at the intersection of matter and form. And so matter is the raw organic material that your body's made out of, or essentially just your body, right? And then your form is actually your soul. To Aristotle, soul was just the form of a living thing, any living thing. And this would be the shape that, or the actuality that acts upon the raw organic material of your body to make it into a living thing. What this means importantly is this is not a dualist view. People get this mixed up a lot. A dualist view would be like Descartes. It would be like, I have my body, and then there's me, my mind and soul, which is separate from my body. And my body is more like just this object that I pilot with my mind. Actually, I have a good example of this, of like Socrates in ancient Athens, which sometimes he was such a troll. He would walk around in wintertime in just like a toga without like heavier clothing. And he would do it just to like kind of provoke people into going up to him and asking, "Hey, Socrates, aren't you cold?" And he would get asked that just so that he could then say, "Oh, who, me? No, I'm not cold. My body's cold. My body's cold, but I'm not cold." And so notice there's a really important distinction there, that there is a clear difference between the object of my body and the subject of I. All that is I is an immaterial soul and mind, an immaterial intellect that exists separate from the object of my body. And my soul then, interacts with my body in ways that are often hard to account for from a dualist perspective. That's like one of the biggest problems with dualism historically is the interaction problem, as it's called. If you have these two things, one's physical and one's non-physical, how do they interact with each other causally? That's a criticism of dualism. But what I'm trying to get at, however, is hylomorphism is different from that, right? Because I think that dualism I just described, no, I'm not cold, my body's cold, but I'm not, because I am not my body. That is what a lot of people, I think, assumed due to modern trends of Cartesianism. This is sort of the assumption a lot of people brought to the table when they viewed this series this whole time, and why so many people just naturally assumed if you're talking about these human entities in a virtual world that appear to have memories of the outside world, of being human people, up until they put on a VR headset, and then suddenly now they exist in this virtual world. The reason why so many people interpreted that through the lens of a sort of Cartesian dualism and just kind of assume that to mean their mind and soul was this separate thing from their body that could be like removed from their body and placed into the virtual world to begin with. But under the hylomorphic view that I would agree with personally, rather than the soul and mind being separate from the body. The body, mind, and soul are all one thing together. They're one unified and inseparable substance. So that means, there is no such thing as removing your soul from your body. That doesn't happen. You are your body. You are your body, but you're not just your body either. This is why I really like hylomorphism. It's sort of like a really interesting and engaging, and I think even true, kind of third position, alternative third position to the classic dualism versus materialism dichotomy. This is so common these days, where it's like either you're this hardcore materialist and the sole extent of all existence is physical stuff, and that means the sole extent of who you are as a person is just physical stuff, your physical body, your physical brain, and you're either the most radically committed materialist, or by contrast, the only other option is you're this really strong dualist. You're like a Cartesian, essentially, and the mind and body are completely separate from each other. But under the Aristotelian kind of hylomorphic view, you get this alternative, this third way, that allows you to say, no, it's not like what the dualist would say, which is that you're not your body at all. You're something separate from your body. Say, no, you are your body, and you're inseparable from your body. Your body is fundamentally a part of you, but at the same time, you're not merely and only your body exclusively, right? You're your body and your mind and your soul all in one substance. And this is why, and why I bring all this up is because under the hylomorphic view, this right here, this bombshell we're getting dropped in the end here, shouldn't actually be a bombshell. Not only should it not be all that surprising, it should be sort of exactly what people expected all along. And so maybe, is the Amazing Digital Circus, are there writers, or the creator, I think, is Gooseworks. Is Gooseworks the creator and writer for Amazing Digital Circus? Is Gooseworks secretly an Aristotelian? Gooseworks Aristotelian confirmed? Because this is actually very much in line with the Aristotelian view. And why is that? Well, because like I said, only a dualist would entertain the idea that you could have de-souled husks of human bodies out there that like had their soul taken away from their body and transported somewhere else. But an Aristotelian hylomorphist such as myself would understand there can be whatever people these digital copies were based upon, those original people could not exist as those original people without their bodies, right? There is just no conceivable existence there's no such thing as their soul or mind as separate from their body. And that's why it would mean, if to an Aristotelian, it should be more obvious. If these digital entities are all talking about how they have memories of a whole life before as human beings in the external physical world, and the memories of their lives all run up to the point they put on a VR headset, and then suddenly from their subjective experience magically transported here. From the Aristotelian view, it should actually be more obvious exactly what's going on there, which is exactly the bombshell that just got dropped, which is that there was a scanned copy made of the brain and all the information of those original people. And then that information was used to render a new entity that just happens to have an identical personality and even identical memories to the original entity, but is still nonetheless a separate and new entity altogether with its own unique conscious experience. Precisely because those original people can only be those original people insofar as they are that actuality, that form, that person, that mind and soul, as instantiated in those particular physical bodies. And even if you take all the exact same memories and experiences and personalities and inclinations, and you instantiate them in a separate bout of material, it'd be like having an identical twin. Another person out there that's like identical to you in many ways, but is separate from you. That is the natural conclusion of this kind of a hylomorphic view, right? This is actually not a bombshell. This ending here, this big bombshell that everybody was like, whoa, when this episode excuse me, when this episode came out a little while ago, this really threw everyone. It's not a bombshell if you're an Aristotelian. It's actually the only logical explanation for this scenario, because you couldn't possibly have those people with a continuity of consciousness continuing to exist separate from their bodies. You can only have a copy of those people with all of their same memories, even therefore under the belief that they are those original people, false belief, but belief nonetheless that they are those original people, existing separately and distinct from those original people. So that was a whole bunch of philosophy stuff about like philosophy of the mind, and philosophical anthropology. Philosophical anthropology means the philosophy of what makes a human person. And I found it, I just found this whole bombshell of the episode here really interesting. We're not going to get into watching this whole episode. What we are going to do is I did just want to skip just to kind of really highlight this point and make it clear what's going on at the end here. So Kane, he's the guy with he's this guy, or
we have got to the point where literally
oh, these ads are so frustrating. So stupid. At least they're short. You can skip them. This is Kane. Oh, come on. Yeah, that's Kane, the tooth guy. That's Kane, the tooth guy. So that's the AI. So he's well, nobody in this world has actually ever been a real human being, but he, as the this guy with the I just call him the tooth guy, but with the teeth and the mouth and the eyeballs in it. He's the AI program that runs this whole world. It turns out, it's revealed, everybody thought he was killed. His program was deleted. It turns out he survived, as we're seeing here. And he has a bit of a change of heart. And he decides, I want to kind of democratize this virtual reality and give some of the control to these other entities here. See, I keep avoiding calling them humans because they're actually literally not humans. They're like the digital copies and brain scans of human beings. So like the digital copies of all of the memories and experiences and personalities of these human beings that are then rendered into a digital form here as a separate entity. So it's like erroneous to call them humans, but the other people here that are based on humans. He has a change of heart. He decides, I'm going to democratize things, and we're gonna everybody's gonna have a say in how things run around here from now on. Now, one thing he does as a sort of gesture of good faith to kind of give everybody closure is he shows everybody. He basically shows everybody, based on all the social media accounts of the people that they were based on, in order to show them what became of the people they were based on. Because again, the original people that these brain scanned entities were based on, they're still out there living their normal lives. They never ceased to exist. They just had a copy made of their brain. So they're still out there as their own people. And so to kind of give these guys a sense of closure with everything that's been revealed, he shows them a kind of slideshow of all of the social media profiles and accounts for the people that they were all based on and that they falsely believe themselves to be and have the memories of, in order to give them a sense of closure. And so I'm just going to show you that scene towards the end, just to kind of highlight everything we've been talking about. Here we go.
Pomni, Abigail Brooks.
There you go.
She's still an accountant, but she seems to have opened up more and is hanging out with new friends more often. She even has some of them in her videos with her, which she still posts on occasion.
She's a YouTuber. Although, also,
Ragatha.
fun fact, this series takes place in like 2016, 2017. That's when series is supposed to be taking place. So I just wanted to say, nice attention to detail. They're actually using the old YouTube format. This is what YouTube looked like in 2016, 2017. This is a format they had back then. And I just kind of like that little attention to detail that they're using like a 2016 era YouTube format here to show. But just to explain though, so Pomni is that's Pomni. And so by saying Pomni, Abigail, what was the name, Brooks or something. So this is what he's doing. He's showing, look, this is the person that this clown, or what, a jester named Pomni, believed themselves to be and has all of the memories of, and believed themselves to be a human being who is captured here, their mind captured here, like being plugged into the Matrix. And so he's saying, look, you're just a copy of that person's brain. You have all their memories, you think they're them, but you're really not. But to give you closure, he's showing this is the life of that person that you're based on as they've continued to live their life, to kind of give them a sense of closure. So that's what's going on here. I'm sorry if I'm over explaining it. I know this is kind of complicated.
She even has some of them in her videos with her, which she still posts on occasion.
Old school YouTube format.
Ragatha, Susie J. Ackerman. She appears to have left her hometown, cut all communication with her mother, and has excelled in her career.
That's Ragatha.
She's made many friends, and it looks like she has a strong, genuine connection with them. She seems happy, like she understands who she is, and that she matters to people. Gangle. Zoe Raghavan. Despite her injuries, she's made a good recovery in the hospital. She quit her fast food job and has gotten a new job at a small design firm. She even began posting pages of her webcomic online. Zubul, Riley Vercellis. After hopping around with different jobs, they look like they've settled a bit and opened their own bar. It seems to be a successful one. People all over the city come to it as a hip alternative destination where they can feel like themselves, free of judgment. Kinger, Grant Best. He's still working in tech and is still happily married to his wife, Destiny. They appear to have 2 daughters together. He
Don't
looks
mind
like
me
he's
drinking
a
in
good
the
dad.
background. I'm just letting this play out, this whole scene, just to make my point about earlier. Actually, I think that was it. Okay. So, and this is why it's all emotional, is because it's meant to give them closure, but it's just a look. These are the people you falsely believed yourselves to be, because your digital, you as digital entities are based on brain scans from these people. So you have all of their memories and experiences and personality, and you even, up until recently, falsely believed yourselves to literally be them. These are the people you're based on, even though your memories only run up to the point when you put on the VR headset, because that's obviously the point when the brain was scanned. These people have gone on to continue to live their lives, and here's, social media profiles of them and information about them, so that you can kind of have this sense of closure of knowing what became of the you thought you were, and knowing that the person you thought you were is actually still out there, alive, and living their best life. Oh, I think there's one more, Jax. Yeah, that's Jax. The rabbit. This is a rabbit guy.
Mateo. After being unhoused for a few months, he was able to room with one of his close friends. He seems to have gotten a stable job and is able to pay rent.
What a dork. Did you see that little salute for what? Delivering FedEx?
He and his friends go out every now and again. Weirdly enough, a spot they seem to frequent is Riley's bar.
I like how in each image they're kind of cleverly obstructing their faces. So they're using like real life footage to make it look real, but they're kind of cleverly obstructing their faces in every picture. So it's like you kind of get a general vibe of who they were, like what they kind of generally looked like, but without like doing a full face reveal. It's kind of clever. It like sort of retains the ability to allow you to continue to associate each character with their digital form and face as you know them, while still kind of giving you some idea of the kind of person they were, their body type and race and all that. It's clever. It's clever. It's a well-written show.
Is any of this actually real?
Is any of this actually real?
Definitely have it in you. Not sure about mine, though.
Well,
Very interesting question to ask. Is any of this actually real? What does real mean? You know, I mean, these entities have a real existence, but it just makes you wonder, are they actually conscious or not? Because now we know they're not human minds, really. They're digital copies of human minds. So that leads into another question, and one last clip I thought we could go over, which actually deals with the question of whether or not an AI can ever truly be conscious and self-aware, or like actually have a conscious experience. There's a very famous thought experiment by a philosopher from the 1980s called the Chinese room experiment. I will explain what it means in a minute, but there was a funny scene from a previous episode in the Amazing Digital Circus making fun of the Chinese room experiment, kind of really getting at, does Kane actually, as the AI program here, actually have a conscious experience? Do any of these digital entities actually have conscious experiences, or are they just simulations? Are they just programs executing through the motions of behaviors that we commonly associate with conscious agents, but without any consciousness going on? That's what something like the Chinese room experiment makes a very compelling case for the idea that no matter how sophisticated an AI program may get, you can never get a true conscious experience arising out of it. I'll explain the Chinese room experiment a little more in a minute, but first I wanted to find that scene so we can react to it. Amazing Digital Circus, Chinese room. Yep.
Gangle was looking.
Okay. How's my OBS doing? Can you all view this still? I know I still haven't figured out the right angle for the window capture, and I feel like little parts of the video keep getting cut off. But whatever, I think you can see the most of it. Yeah, you guys can't see around here. It like cuts off on the bottom a bit, but oh well. Doesn't matter. You can see most of it, and you can hear the audio. Oh, look at that. I got another AI advertisement posted in my chat, I think on Twitch, yeah. I always get this every time I'm streaming for a certain amount of time. I think it's like the 1 hour mark. I think it's the 1 hour mark. But every time I've been streaming for a certain amount of time, I will then get this like automatic, I think there's like an AI program that does just this automatic ad. It'll just say like best promotion on streamboo.org or whatever. That just auto goes out to my chat. It's a little frustrating and disappointing because it's sort of like, you know, I'm just starting out. I'm speaking into the void, and and I have no like live audience, so you know I'll get this notification while I'm streaming, like you got a new message in chat, and I'm like, holy shit, do I have like a view? Oh no, it's just an AI ad. Oh, whatever. But anyway, should I explain the Chinese room now? All right, let me, because I think the scene will set up the Chinese room, so I'll explain what it means. Let's watch it.
Gangle was looking for you.
Hi, Zooble.
Wait, what's this?
Hello, my little rubber baby buggy bumpers! Today, I've decided to go to the store to get essential ingredients for my signature milk and cigarette casserole. I hope you can handle yourselves until I get back.
Well, this was fun while it lasted.
So, what's the adventure today?
The fuck? Why is it frozen?
Oh, I don't have an adventure for you today, so you can do whatever you feel like.
All right, sounds fine to me.
You should ask me for suggestions on what to do instead.
No.
What should we do instead?
No, Gangle.
Wait, sorry.
Great question, Gangle. For an answer, let me consult the Chinese room.
Chinese room.
Okay, had a bit prepared.
Okay, this is funny.
Okay, why Chinese? Does this actually mean anything?
It's a mystery what's behind that door, but I believe it's a fluent Chinese speaker who will give me advice.
Can I
Okay, that's so this is actually quite clever and funny, but you probably don't under. So just to explain why this is clever and funny. So here's what the Chinese room experiment is. The Chinese room asks us to consider. Suppose um suppose you hired an English speaker. They only speak English, and that's it. They don't speak or read or understand a word of Chinese. And you hired and paid this English speaker to spend an extended period of time in a little room like this one here. Let's say maybe in the middle of downtown Beijing or something. And this speaker, this English speaker, doesn't speak or understand a word of Chinese, but in the room he stays in, he's given these stacks and stacks and stacks of binders. And these binders contain within them a bunch of instructions. Things that say things like, if you read a piece of paper that has this symbol on it, respond with these symbols. And they get increasingly complicated. If you receive like a conjunctive, an and statement, like if you receive this symbol and this symbol combined with this symbol, then respond with this series of symbols. And if you receive this symbol or this symbol, like a disjunctive, then respond with this series of symbols. So the idea is that any Chinese speaker in downtown Beijing, any native Mandarin speaker, can walk up to the room and pass notes back and forth with the man in the middle of the Chinese room. So just like he just did. See, that's Chinese, or that's Mandarin. Taking out Mandarin, right? And he's slipping it under the door. Now, here's the idea again. The idea is the person in behind that door does not speak or understand a word of Chinese, verbally or written. So the idea is that person is going to get those pieces of paper and have absolutely no idea what any of those Mandarin symbols mean. But the person behind the door does have access, again, to stacks and stacks of binders with instructions on them that don't explain what these symbols mean. They don't explain what any of those Mandarin or Chinese symbols mean. They just simply are instructions that say, when you receive this symbol, you should respond with that symbol. When you receive these other symbols, you should respond with this other symbol. When you receive this symbol followed by this symbol and that symbol, or you receive this other symbol in that symbol, then you should respond with it. Say they get increasingly complicated instructions, but they're just instructions that are allowing this English speaker to get these Chinese symbols, look at them, and then generate the right correct responses based on the instructions he was given. He's not understanding what the people who are passing notes under the door. He doesn't understand what their notes say, and he doesn't even understand what the notes he writes back say. He doesn't understand any of these symbols. He just knows when I get these symbols, I respond with these other symbols. That's all he knows. He doesn't know what any of it means. He just knows I get this symbol, I respond with that symbol. Okay, well, it looks like I have a viewer on YouTube Live. That's interesting. I wonder who it is. I could check it out. Maybe I shouldn't distract myself with it too much. I was in the middle of a good explanation. I'm really tempted, whoever's viewing me, if you want to talk in the chat. Let me see here. Live. It says one watching. Much I was in the middle of a good but it won't tell me who. It won't tell me who. Just says there's one person watching. Oh well. If you want, you can always talk in the chat. Everyone's welcome here. That's kind of interesting and exciting because I don't really have an audience yet, but whatever. I apologize for interrupting my explanation. Okay, so the Chinese room. You have this English speaker doesn't understand a word of Chinese, but sitting in this room. I ignore. Oh, I won't say your name. Sorry, you threw me off a little bit there. And you got me excited. Maybe it was somebody other than you who just randomly found my stream. I will ignore you. I will ignore you. I hope you're appreciative. But you can ask me questions. I mean, isn't this the point of a live stream? You interact with your chat a bit. So feel free to ask me questions. But I do want to continue this explanation. So the Chinese room, the guy inside the room does not understand a word of what the notes he's being passed, right? He doesn't understand a word of it. He doesn't speak Mandarin, not at all. But he does have these stacks of binders with instructions in them telling him when you get these symbols, you respond with these other symbols. And so the idea is if people who do speak Chinese go up to the room and pass notes under, so long as that English speaker in the room follows the Chinese instructions perfectly, okay, so long as that person understands the Chinese instructions understands the instructions on how to respond to the symbols, to the notes he's getting passed perfectly, he can generate a response even without understanding the Mandarin symbols. And he can generate a response in a way that when the Chinese speaker on the other side of the door receives, the note back, to them, it looks like a fluent Chinese response. And the Chinese room experiment asks us to further consider, if let's assume over time these experiments were run and based on how effectively this guy's instructions are helping him, he's given more instructions that are even more specific and detailed and complicated, and this guy also gets super sophisticated and efficient at following his instructions. And it can eventually get to a point where to any Chinese speaker who goes up to the room and passes a note under the door, they'll get a response back that'll read to them like the response of a fellow native Chinese speaker who is like they're having a conversation with through notes passed between the door. But remember, the English speaker in the room who's following all the instructions still doesn't understand a word of Chinese. There is still no mental abstraction going on the part of the man in the Chinese room. There's still no understanding he has of like what's going on. There's just the illusion or the appearance of understanding. Basically, there are certain behaviors and ways things act that we've come to associate with conscious agents. Conscious agents tend to speak language, and they tend to speak in these certain ways where they communicate certain feelings and they act and react in certain ways. But we're not telepaths. We can't reach into someone's mind. We don't know, like, what else is going on in someone's head. We can't peer into someone's brain and go, oh, look, they're thinking about things. We can't look into their conscious thought, right? So all we can do is look to how they behave and go, oh, here's something before me that is speaking language and acting and reacting. And based on that, I'm going to go ahead and assume that they're a fellow conscious agent like me, and they're having the same conscious experience that I am. But in reality, you have no way of knowing that for sure. They could just be a simulation. They could just be a sophisticated machine that imitates the appearance of things, that imitates the appearance of a conscious thinking agent without actually involving conscious thought processes. That is what the point of the Chinese room thought experiment is. We're just trying to provoke someone into thinking. And so it's doing that with the example of, again, somebody can, just by following instructions on when I receive this input, I put out that output. When I receive papers under the door that have these Chinese symbols on them, I respond with these other symbols. Somebody can follow those instructions in a way that the Chinese speaker on the other side of the door, it subjectively feels to them like they're having a conversation with someone who understands them. But in reality, there's no understanding going on whatsoever. The English speaker has no idea what any of these symbols mean. He has no idea the conversation that's being had. He doesn't understand any of it. There's no conscious experience of there's no meaningfulness to the language, right? There's no conscious experience in reflection and abstraction going into this conversation on their part, even though the other person thinks there is. That's a little complicated, but that's the point of the Chinese room. And that's what this is kind of making fun of. We'll just kind of watch that scene again real quick just to highlight, what's going on.
For an answer, let me consult the Chinese room.
Okay, had a bit prepared.
See, putting Mandarin symbols under the door.
Okay, why Chinese? Does this actually mean anything?
It's a mystery what's behind that door. But I believe it's a fluent Chinese speaker who will give me advice.
I believe
Can I
it's a
just ask-
fluent Chinese speaker behind the door, even though, again, even though the person behind the door doesn't actually speak a word of Chinese, and they're just following instructions in order to generate, the appearance of speaking Chinese. There's a difference between thought and the appearance of thought, conscious experience, and the behaviors we associate with things we assume to have conscious experience. And it's the fact, and another point of what's being made here is the fact that from the outside in, you have no way to know. There's no way for someone like Kane here to know whether the person behind the door actually speaks Chinese, or whether they're instead there's someone who doesn't understand a word of Chinese but is just simply following instructions really well in how to respond to these symbols properly without actually understanding what they mean. There's no way to know. And so he can say, I like to imagine there's a fluent Chinese speaker behind the door, because why not? That's what it seems like. And that's a metaphor for how we relate to AI. AI is meant to be like the English speaker in the Chinese room. AI is just a series of code. You're putting in input, putting in data, and it's been given instructions in advance. It's been programmed with instructions, just like the English speaker is given all these binders of instructions. It's given a long digital list of all these instructions. It says, anytime you receive this input, compute it and then spit out this output in response. And so just like how the English speaker in the Chinese room can spit out these responses that sound to a Chinese speaker like a fellow Chinese speaker talking back to them, despite not actually understanding a word of Chinese. Likewise, AI, much like the English speaker in the Chinese room, is, seeming to have a conversation. And this is really relevant now with things like AI chatbots and stuff. It seems like you're talking, it feels to you, an actual conscious agent, to you, it feels like you're having this conversation with another person, right? With another thinking mind that's listening to what you're saying, understanding it, and then responding, and like reflecting upon the meaning of what you're saying and then coming up with its own response. But it's not doing that. It's just doing a very sophisticated game of guess the next word, where you're giving it input and it's just following instructions to spit out output. So just like how the English speaker in the Chinese room doesn't actually understand a word of Chinese, likewise, the AI chatbot you're talking to doesn't actually understand what you're saying. It's not even a person. It doesn't have a mind. It's not thinking about anything. We might use this language to describe AI. Oh, my computer's thinking right now, I might say, if it's taking a long time loading. But that's just anthropomorphizing technology. In reality, there's no mind. There's no conscious experience. It's just an AI code. It's just a program following a series of, when you receive if this, then that. It's just a complicated series of if this and that. If you get this input, then spit out this output. But there's no thought or reflection going into it. And so an AI might be able to one day get to a point where it's so sophisticated that it's like Kane here. It just comes across like a human being, like it's an intelligence, thing. But in actuality, the Chinese room experiment asks us to consider that no matter how sophisticated it gets, no matter how much it seems to perfectly imitate, the behaviors and appearance of a conscious agent like a human being, nonetheless, it there's nothing actually going on between its ears. It has no mind. It's just a very sophisticated machine imitating the appearance of a mind without actually possessing a mind. And why I brought all this up, and I wanted to make this the last clip I responded to. So I know I just had someone join me in the chat here, but I'm actually kind of at the end, unfortunately. But why I wanted to make this the last clip I responded to is because I thought it's really relevant to the bombshell we got on on the characters here. Remember, the characters for the whole series, we assumed, in maybe in a way that kind of presupposed a certain dualist assumption, we assumed that they were like people plugged into the Matrix, where they were the original people who put on these VR headsets and had their minds transported to this digital world while their bodies are still up there. And so there's a continuity of consciousness and a continuity of identity. They're the same person that put on the VR headset, and there's now their minds now existing. What's going on in this episode? So I'm reacting to the Amazing Digital Circus, because they just had their series finale. They just finished up. They're a huge series online. I talk about it a bit earlier in the stream. And I mean, they're a huge series. They get like literally like 100 million views a video. They're that big. And they just had a really famous like final episode that aired to wrap up the series. And there were a couple bombshells that were dropped in it, and also just the show in general has a lot of philosophical themes to it, that have to do with things. Yeah, they're stuck in VR, and it has to do with things like like the philosophy of AI, philosophy of technology. There are a lot of and also philosophical anthropology. So I talk about this a lot more earlier in the stream if you want to play it back later. Because I am gonna have to go in like a little bit, but I can wrap this up and I can stay on a little longer. But basically, yeah, they're trapped in a VR world. I would really recommend this series. If you haven't seen, you can watch it for free on YouTube right now. It's like one of the biggest indie projects on YouTube. They get literally like hundreds of millions of views on their videos. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, so basically, just to summarize, these people, they all put on a VR headset at one point and got, or at least in their minds, they believe they got transported to this virtual reality world where they're now stuck, right? Like being plugged into the Matrix or something. Okay, yeah, so you know the general premise, right? And so, but the bombshell, I mean, I don't know if you want to call it spoilers. I don't know if you want to, because it's kind of spoiler if you haven't seen the last episode. But the big bombshell, I mean, how about you tell me? Because I'd already talked about it earlier in the stream. Do you want me to spoil it right now? Or did you want to like see it? Because I like almost don't want to say it if you're planning on watching the last episode. Although if you watch the rest of my stream, it'll be spoiled anyway. Come on, respond to me. Just tell me before I spoil it for you. Okay, cool. Yeah, because I've already spoiled it all over this whole stream. But basically in the last episode, it was revealed that rather than it being that the original people they were based on had their minds transported, it's actually what happened was the VR made a brain scan, basically made like a sort of file copy. Yeah, but they basically made like a sort of file copy of their brains with all of their exact memories and experiences and personalities, and made a copy of their brains. And then these digital kind of digital entities, whatever you want to call them, digital people, are then rendered with these digital forms, but based on the scans and copies of their brains. But the original people they're based on are still out there, living their normal lives. So these digital people are actually not the original people. It's not that the original people had their minds captured and uploaded into this VR world. It's that the VR made a copy of their brains and then used the brain copy to create digital people that have all of their exact memories and experiences and personalities, such that they mistakenly believed themselves to be the original people. And that was like the huge bombshell that was dropped in the last episode. And that's also means, you know, they're permanently stuck there because they have no bodies to go back to, because they're not actually real people, right? They're digital copies. But then that leads into the question is, are the digital copies, or even the AI program Kane, can you call them people, like with conscious experiences? And that was why I was talking about the Chinese room at the end, because that's a famous thought experiment that deals with the philosophy of AI and whether or not an AI could ever really be conscious. But you know, unfortunately, you're kind of popping in right towards the end of my stream here. I was kind of getting ready to wrap up, so I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and let me go ahead and I'm gonna here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go back to OBS and I'm going to bring my or let me go back to VTube Studio and I'm gonna just bring my nice little Japanese university campus background back, and then let me go back to OBS, pull this over here. How did that look? So I can still hang out and chat a few minutes, but I was kind of wrapping up all the React stuff, basically. So yeah. Was this good? I'm still messing around with some of the tech stuff, but I'm getting better at it, I think. Don't you? Hey, you want to go watch it now? Wait, you want to watch my whole stream or the show? Well, to be honest with you, I am probably going to end the stream in a minute. But just to recap, you know, we're just getting in some React stuff tonight. Oh, I did want to say, or I mentioned it at the beginning of the stream, but I did get my first YouTube video out there. I uploaded it. It's basically the stream from last night or the night before tonight or whatever. I don't know. It's like so early. It's like early in the morning almost now here. But basically, yeah. But basically, it is a good show. I think you like it. It's kind of your vibe too. It is kind of your vibe. But basically, yeah, no problem. Basically, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so, I did the part of last night's live stream where I was reading off the script. I used CapCut to just get it to a neat presentation of the what is philosophy video I wanted to do. I did just upload that to YouTube. And I also uploaded it to TikTok. It actually let me, even though it was 16 minutes long. Even though it was 16 minutes long, it actually let me upload the whole thing to TikTok. But it's weird because TikTok's doing this thing where it's saying you need to have your content reviewed and approved first. I guess because I'm new. So it's kind of weird. So that one, I think it's like it's posted to TikTok, but it's not letting me actually like, or it's not able to be viewed publicly yet. But the YouTube video is fully public and posted. So you can check out that video. It sounds much better than the part of it on the live stream where it's just me explaining what is philosophy, but a lot more, I think, streamlined and edited more neatly. I do plan to make a supercut. This is all stuff I said at the beginning of the stream. I do plan to make a supercut of the Light Yagami, Analyzing Evil Light Yagami react from last night as well. And then I do want to make a supercut of what I did tonight. Tonight, I was mainly just in honor of their series finale, which aired like a week or two ago. I, you know, just wanted to do a little theme where we didn't like sit there and watch the whole hour-long episode. We didn't sit there and go through the whole series. I just played a few clips that I thought were relevant to some of this philosophy stuff. So that's what I was doing today, and I'm going to make a supercut video of that too. Otherwise, it is super late where I am. It's literally like 4 in the morning. And I should really stop like staying up all night doing this stuff, but I think it's good. I'm excited to get content out there. I'm excited to keep. I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna kind of just like sit down and do like a React style stream and maybe some commentary style streams every night. There's no reason I can't like sit down and at least spend an hour on this, and then just kind of continuously be cutting up all my live stream footage into YouTube and TikTok videos. I think that's the best way to go forward right now. But anyway, I am gonna have to you know, head out for now. Good night, and yeah. I don't want to say too much on the live stream right? Because I don't want to dox you and I don't want to accidentally dox myself. So I'm trying to not like I'm just, you know, there's a reason I'm like trying to not address you too personally. But I guess if anybody else happens to watch this, there's someone in my chat who I know personally. So that's where we're having this interaction. But anyway, I'm gonna head out. I encourage you to watch my whole stream if you're interested in the Amazing Digital Circus stuff. I mean, I react to like multiple clips from it, and I explain some of the philosophy stuff in more detail. And then of course, I'm gonna try to cut it up too, and all that. All right, well, I'm gonna be signing off now. So have a good night, everybody.